Welcome to the War on Wellness. Today I have a wonderful guest, which is going to be right here. It's going to be my husband, Paul McPherson, and we're excited to come to you for this series of Heritage Fusion, our culture, our lifestyle, and our wellness. So make sure that you say hello, Paul, in the comments. Make him feel welcome. And I want to thank all those who are watching on Facebook, and let me bring in my Instagram family. Wonderful. We have the Instagram family here as well, and the YouTube family. So thank you all for joining us here on this February series for Black History Month. And Paul and I are going to be talking about our individual heritage and how that's influenced who we are today. So we are going to be right back right after this message from our sponsor. Make sure you say hello in the comments so that I know that you're here and so Paul will know that you're here. Welcome back to the War on Wellness, and we are back live.
Hola.
I have Paul here, as I mentioned, and I am excited to have my hubby here to share with me with the War on Wellness broadcast. So I am going to, we're just going to have a conversation.
Okay, works for me.
Okay, we're going to have a conversation and we're going to talk about just our heritage and how that has influenced us over the past few years. And of course, if you have any questions, you can feel free to do that. I've been doing a series and having different guests on different nights on the Wednesday night broadcast for the month of February, since it's Black History Month. And so we're talking about our heritage and how that's influenced who we are today. And okay, we got a shout out here. We got a hi y'all from Doris.
Hey sis.
DC Artistry. Wonderful. Nice to have you as well. And I know there'll be other comments and I may get some of those. So we'll look forward to seeing you as you show up on the screen. So, our heritage.
Yes.
And so I actually wrote down a couple of my answers because I want to make sure that I can keep this, it makes sense for us. So I guess I'll start first, ladies
You
first.
go right ahead.
Okay.
I have no problem with that.
Okay. So the first question was to talk about the past generations and family, and then the older generation and whether they were city dwellers and how they grew up. And so I can remember back as far as my great grandfather and my great grandfather on my father's side. And I do remember that they were in the city. My grandparents on my mother's side were also city dwellers. And so everybody grew up in the city. If you're from Richmond, Virginia, which is my hometown, and that would be the north side of Richmond for my father's side of the family, and Churchill for my mother's side of the family. And they grew up and they were city dwellers. So where are your people from?
Okay, so my people, my mother's family, her father was from North Carolina, and they migrated At least the brothers did. They migrated to New York. And my grandmother on my mother's side, she was born in New Jersey. So yes, that side of the family, they're all city dwellers as well. Unfortunately, on my father's side, his history basically ends with him. I know his mother died when he was young, and he lived with his brother until he also migrated to New York as well.
Very good.
City people.
City people.
New York people.
Okay. Which part of New York? Because when you say New York, everybody thinks Manhattan.
Well, I was born in Mount Vernon, New York. My mom lived most of her life in Bronx.
Okay. All right. BK. Very good. So, that's Brooklyn. Okay. See. Okay. I'm from the South. I don't know. Bronx. You got to correct me. Don't let me just go out like that. Okay. All right. Bronx, New York, for her. Okay. So both of us, or I guess our heritage family came from the cities.
Urban,
exactly. And so for me, their relationship with food, and so I had to go write down what mine was, and it is I know that my great grandfather, he had a grapevine and he had rabbits, and my mother said that at one point her parents had a farm, or not a farm. They grew some things, but after I was born, no. But there was when we moved into our first house, my parents moved into our first house. We did attempt to garden in the backyard.
How'd it work out?
Yeah, they had us out there in the dirt. And we didn't know any hard city dirt. But we did make an attempt and did actually harvest some tomatoes, some string beans, some strawberries, and that was pretty much the garden. My grandparents on my father's side, they were the ones who had the grapevines, and we actually have a grapevine outside here. So that was kind of like full circle for me when I thought about that. So yeah, that was it as far as growing anything.
Right.
Did your family grow anything?
When I was coming up, my grandmother lived on Long Island in Old Westbury, and she had a garden. I do remember that. She had a garden, and she grew tomatoes and string beans, and she also had a grapevine in the backyard. But my mother, she has had a garden, although she lived in an urban area ever since I was, I guess, about 5. And so she's been gardening for about 50 years now. Even at the age of 91, she still plants a garden.
Nice. I like that. And so, so let's talk about like how we grew up as far as like eating growing up. So I remember in my family, at least, I know my mom went back to school when we were young. And so I was like a preteen, early teen. My mom went back to school to better herself. And so that left me. Oh, I'm the oldest, by the way. So I'm the oldest of 5 now. And so that left me to get the dinners prepared. Dad would work late a lot of times. And so.
What were you cooking?
I was not cooking anything. But, nowadays, kids, they're chefs that are like 7, 8, 9-year-old. I mean, young kids that are chefs. But we did the little Salisbury steak dinners and things like that.
Hungry somebody.
Yeah. I don't even remember what the names of them were, but I remember those. They'd have like a little dessert in the corners. Anybody else remember the little dinners that you could buy that were already pre-made, and they came in, they had like little squares?
Yeah. And don't overcook it.
Yeah.
Otherwise your dessert be all shrunk up.
Exactly. And all the juice will be gone out of it. But does anybody else remember? Put a yes in the comments if you remember that. Okay, yeah. So look at that. We got a yes from Margot. She remembers that. Okay, very good. And Doris is asking, when are we going to get rabbit or goats? To be determined. But I do want to get some animals since we live out here in rural Virginia now. But that was, so our dinners were a lot of pre-made dinners that I remember. And we have oatmeal or something in the morning, or cereal or something like that. And one thing that was favorite was fried bologna sandwiches. Does anybody else like fried bologna sandwiches?
Yeah.
You put it in a pan and cross anyway. Yeah, that was one thing that we would eat. Or I remember tomato sandwiches. And I had to interview my mom for this to make sure I remember correctly. But we would have so for dinners, or sometimes we'd have Campbell soup or alphabet soup. Remember they have alphabets, spaghetti, string beans, collards, kales, lima beans. My mom is famous for her potato salad.
Excellent.
She's famous for her potato salad, which is great. And I do remember Mom having coconut pies, and my grandmother making salmon cakes. So I would have her teach me how to make those. And so there was a lot of eating around. We were a very sociable family, so we would have people over, and you would have food for that. And so yeah, that's what I remember as far as the food part.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah,
that's a lot. Let me see. So growing up, I do not remember a lot of processed foods. My mom was an excellent cook, and everything was coming from scratch. And so I remember we had a very varied diet. The diet was unlike my friends, because we were eating eggplant back in the early 70s, avocados. We were eating back in the early 70s. And so, I was exposed to a lot of vegetables, all the greens, and I didn't like it all, but at least I was exposed to it. And so later on in life, I realized that, my lifestyle, my upbringing was different than some of my friends, because I was running into people who were in their 20s, and they didn't eat vegetables. They were not exposed to vegetables. They didn't like vegetables, but they were never exposed. And so I'm thankful that, although I didn't like everything, I was, my mother did introduce those things to me. You think back to like tofu. You think of tofu as being something has come out in recent years, but my mom was making her own tofu back in the mid 80s. She makes her own vegetarian meats. We were vegetarians back in the mid 70s. So my mom was trying to perfect her pound cake when, our church has always had that health message. When she came to the point of saying, I can do better, I need to do better. And so she stopped focusing on items like that, and she started to focus more on what was healthier for her family to eat.
I like that. And you just reminded me that when I first started as a vegetarian vegan, it was not popular back then. This was the 80s. To some people watching this, that's probably like, ancient years ago. But there were no Impossible, Beyond, or I was
restaurants.
Right. Didn't have options.
No.
And I mean, it's like foreign if you went in and asked for that. And then I was working at Wendy's when I was a teen, when in my late teens, and I was serving meat, but I was not eating meat. I didn't eat meat. And so I just had to have that discipline. That was something that I was doing at that point in my life, in my early and my late teens. And so I would make me a sandwich at Wendy's, and it would be a sandwich with, just cheese, lettuce, tomato, and onion. And that was it.
Sounds good to me.
I mean, it worked. And so I was doing it when it was not popular. I was attempting to try to do something different, healthier. And you mentioned church. So for those who don't know, we're Seventh-day Adventist Christians. And so they speak on the health message a lot. And so that was one of my first introductions to it. And then I took it a step further for myself, incorporating that into my life. And then after a while, society caught up and said, hey, being vegan vegetarian is a good thing.
Right.
And so transitioning forward, because I always tell my nieces and nephews that it's really important who you pick as a life partner, because they're gonna, take you up or they're gonna take you down. If you agree, put a Y in the comments, okay? One way or the other, they're gonna help you or they're gonna hurt you.
Right.
And so when God brought us together, because it wasn't us, it was interesting that when we got married, we were both eating meat.
Yeah. You ate some fish.
Yeah, I did.
That was it.
I was eating salmon, and then I was eating or other fish too. And so then I decided that for my health reasons that I would no longer eat not only meat of fish, but no longer eat eggs or no longer eat dairy. And your reaction, I remember when I said that I was going vegan, is that you were like, well, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to eat the cashew cheese or the quinoa or things like that.
I think my background made it an easier transition, but having a vegan diet, you have to really be creative. And so the idea of, I didn't like to eat cashews. So the idea of eating cashew cheese was like, hold on a second. My mom used to experiment in the kitchen growing up, but as an adult, my mom was like, do I really want to do this? But the good thing is that it wasn't that hard of a transition, and you were a very good cook. And I know that being married to Penny has helped my health. I still eat meat, chicken, beef, fish, not so much red meat, but I know having Penny has reduced the amount of meat that I would have been eating. And so I can appreciate that.
And probably help your health.
Oh yeah.
As well.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
So yeah, I'm in the widow prevention program. That's what I like to say. As long as possible to have a healthy husband, wife, and so that we can be here for each other and not have to be taking care of each other sooner. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Quality of life is really important, because you can live to be old, but you want to be able to have abilities and not disabilities along that. So
I like that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna use that one.
So I think it's important for the Plant-Based Penny Life family to realize that the challenges that we face may be generational. Like for me, I didn't grow up exercising. It was, I didn't play a sport or anything like that. And so for me, it's a challenge to actually exercise on a regular basis. And so knowing that that was not as part of my heritage growing up means that I have to be more intentional. I have to have more vigilance when it comes to exercise, and my food choices have to be really disciplined, because my exercise is not up here as it needs to be. Now it's getting better. It's gotten better than it was, but realizing that I need to have that passion for myself, and I can't really credit my ancestors or blame my ancestors for the choices that I make now.
Right.
Because I think a lot of times people say, well, it runs in the family.
Right.
Well, I'm going to die of something.
Yeah, it's a cop-out. And, and I think a lot of times we know that there's a better way, but it's always tomorrow. New Year's, I'm going to start my diet New Year's. I'm going to quit smoking on New Year's. And if you're serious about your health, if you're serious about your life or making changes, any change, if you want true change, it starts today. It starts now, not sometime in the future, because that day will come and it'll pass by.
That's exactly.
But
right.
you have to choose life and make better choices.
Yes. Choose life and life more abundantly.
Mm-hmm.
So the earliest positive.
Hold on a second.
Oh,
what is it? No.
Oh, okay.
No.
Yeah. It's an African proverb. It says, "To know and not do is to not know."
Mm-hmm.
And so that means that if you know it and you don't do it, that means you don't really know it.
Know better, do better.
Okay, yeah. First one is African proverb. Thank you, D2 Kasui. And the second one is when you know better, you do better. That's by Dr. Maya Angelou. So giving credit to them. So yeah, so I mean, just think about the challenges. I guess we kind of talked about it a little bit about food. Mine, I enjoy and I eat vegetables. I guess because I was introduced to it when I was younger. Thanks, Mom. And so now I think that it helped in our marriage relationship because a lot of people, a lot of clients that I've talked to have said that, well, I'm the only one in the house that's trying to eat better. I'm the only one that's trying to eat, to do whatever, even if they're just trying to eat healthier, not necessarily eating a vegan or plant-based diet. But I think that we have to be disciplined within ourselves.
That's the word.
Yeah.
Discipline.
Because like if Paul's not home, that doesn't mean that I'm going to go to, we only have one fast food restaurant in the city where we live, okay? Because we live in a little small town. But we got a Hardee's.
Burger King.
Okay, we have a Burger King here. If he's not here, that means that I can't I'm not gonna run to the Burger King because he's not here, because my diet choices are not dependent on him.
Right.
And
I'm not responsible for your life.
Right.
You are.
Right.
100%.
Right.
It's your choice. It's my choice. No matter what you do, it's my choice.
Right. So even if you bring a
pizza,
a big old sloppy, greasy, cheesy pizza in that, don't let me tempt you, in the house, and he's sitting next to me eating that, I don't have to eat that just because. Now I like to be prepared, and have my own dish or snack ready so that I'm not overly tempted. But it's important that we make sure that we take care of ourselves, because we can't answer for anybody else but ourselves. So I just want to make sure I make that point.
I agree,
because I do have clients that bring that up. So if we think about
well, let me tell you my challenge.
Okay, go ahead.
My challenge is I eat too much.
Oh, okay.
The good thing is that I do exercise. Why is that? Because when I was growing up, I was the household trash can. Like if there was a little bit of food left in the pot, it was my job to clean it up, to eat it, basically. And no matter what dish it was my responsibility to eat that. And so all throughout my life, I had this ability to sit down and eat a lot of food. Yeah. Now, I don't know for a fact it's because of that, but I think it is. And so I don't have a cutoff. And so that's very hard for me. That's my challenge, is to walk away from the table. One plate, walk away.
I did a presentation for the I guess the early morning prayer group for Ephesus Seventh Adventist Church, and one of the things that I was teaching, we're talking about food cravings, and one of the things it was put the fork down. Mm-hmm. So in between every bite, put the fork down, because otherwise you're shoveling, which is improper etiquette. But because of COVID, we kind of lost a little etiquette anyway. But in between every bite, put the fork down and chew the food, and that kind of slows us down a little bit when it comes to that. And so, just thinking about African Americans in general, or our culture in general, and how that's influenced like our diet or lifestyle. So we have there are things that people say run in the family, mm-hmm. and of course I disagree with that partly, but how as far as just your opinion on, as African Americans or people, the culture in general, do you think that affects our diet or lifestyle?
Yeah, I would think that coming out of slavery, that I mean, there is definitely an effect there. It's not just on education and home ownership and how we manage our bank accounts. I mean, it also has to have an effect on the way we live, our lifestyle, our habits, what we eat.
Yeah.
So I do believe there is a link between the past and today. I just think that once again, going back to what we're saying, that we have the power to break that habit,
cycle,
that link,
break
because we do have the knowledge.
Break every chain.
Exactly.
Break every chain. And I agree with you. And there are certain nuances, especially I think when it comes to lifestyle. For instance, for instance, Black women working out,
right?
They don't want
they don't run.
Yeah.
At least that's what I heard. That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah. They don't want to exercise, or at least it was the thought process. They didn't want to exercise because it would mess up their hair. As far as swimming as well, the same way.
Right.
And has anybody ever heard that before? Put hair in the comments if you've ever heard that for Black women, for instance, don't want to get their hair wet, or women of maybe possibly women of color don't want to get their hair wet or sweaty because it might mess it up. So therefore they don't exercise. So put whether you agree with that or not in the comments, or just put hair if you've heard of it there. But I do know, so I did book a speaking engagement coming up for Black Girls Run. So Black girls do run, okay? They do 5Ks, they do 10Ks, they do marathons.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Really?
All of that.
2024.
Yes, way before that.
Oh.
And so shout out to the Richmond chapter of Black Girls Run. And so I'll be speaking at their national conference with my own workshop there in Chicago later on this year. And I look forward to that. So not only do they run, but they actually swim. And I mean, you can look now at the Olympics and athletics now, and you see that Black women are well represented in all, I mean, not just track and field, but many other areas of athleticism.
And you see more in the gym as well.
Yes.
You do see much more.
Yeah. Okay, good. We have somebody putting hair in the comments. They've heard of it. This is not foreign to them at all. So that is very, very true. It does affect you. So your culture does affect what it is that you might be exposed to.
Mm-hmm.
So for instance, golf might be something new to you, or it might not be, depending on, I think you can't really say it's like everybody in the culture.
Right.
Because there are some people who were, tennis, for instance. My brother Joe and I played tennis when back in the, 70s. I think that's when Arthur Ashe was very famous. And so, and I don't know why you play tennis, but for some reason you were interested in tennis at one point early on. So there is an influence. It depends on how you grew up in your household, not necessarily the total culture.
Right. I agree.
Okay.
I agree.
So what do we do now to choose to live in wellness? So we talked about, my great-grandparents, my grandparents, and parents. I do want to say that one thing that I really liked about my family growing up is that we would have family dinners. So Dad would come home from work and we would all sit around the family table, and he would ask about our day, and we would have dinner together as a family. And so I really enjoyed family dinners. Does anybody have family dinners anymore? Does anybody eat together as a family? You could,
without the TV.
Yeah, well, the TV was in a different room. We ate in the kitchen, so it was a different room. And so nowadays you have multiple TVs. We had one TV, and the remote control was one of us. We got up and changed the channel. But what do we do now to live in wellness? Because we can't ride on the positive nature of our past and we can't blame our past either. So what do you do to try to stay well?
Well, for me, once again, going back to the fact that it's my life, and it's up to me to make the right choices. And so, I do try to watch my diet. I have reduced the amount of red meat that I eat. Rarely do I eat red meat. Um, in the home, we only do vegan. So that has been a big help. And, I exercise throughout the year. I run, I go to the gym. Um, like you said, quality, it's all about quality of life. Being 56 years old, I'm not getting any
What?
stronger, or
Doesn't he look good?
I'm on the other side of things. So I'm just trying to maintain. I'm not trying to necessarily to, be Mr. Fitness. I just want to be in good enough shape that I can continue to travel with my wife.
Yes.
And go and live in places that there's no hospital nearby. I don't have to be worried about a hospital or life, saving medications.
Right.
So
right.
it's all about quality of life. It's all about choosing to have quality of life. But that means you have to make some adjustments and give up some things as well.
Right. And yeah, I like to think about it as you're adding some things. You're taking away some things, but you're taking away things that subtract years from your life and subtract years of ability from your life. So it was that I could eat anything when I was in my 20s or whatever, and then just like stop eating it for a week and then lose weight, and so but it's going to catch up with you either in joint pains or ability levels, and you just
cholesterol.
yeah, exactly.
All those burgers, I don't care. You can stop eating them for 10 years, but you've already done the damage.
Cookout shakes.
Yeah, it's like when you're smoking.
Right.
You do so much damage that it's very hard to undo what you've done.
The damage.
It's good to make good choices when you're younger as well. You don't have to wait till you're 50 years old to start making good lifestyle choices.
I agree because it's harder to unlearn the habit. How was it? Frederick Douglass says is better to make strong children than to something adults. I gotta come back with that because I can't remember what it is now. But then to fix something
broken.
Oh yeah, it's easier to build strong children than to repair broken men. And so that's a very poignant quote from him. And so what do I do to try to stay well? Well, I'm plant-based Penny. I think being plant-based Penny has helped me stay on the road to wellness because it gives me an accountability and me helping other people and working with groups and clients and actually speaking before people. But your character is what you do when nobody else is looking. And so it is being disciplined and intentional with the choices that I make, because the choices that I make today will determine the choices that I will have tomorrow. So like you said, the ability to, jump on a plane and go somewhere and just be free and not have to worry about, oh man, I got to get from my prescription or, so having that ability to be free and that level that freedom it relieves stress off of your mind. Really does. And we didn't mention, for those who don't know us, that we spent 2 years living abroad. We took a personal sabbatical time out and spent years living in the countries that we lived in during those years were Costa Rica, Panama, and Colombia, South America. And we met some wonderful people there. Hola! In those countries that we now consider part of our global family. And that's just 3 of the 7 to 8 countries and 3 continents that we visited. All the time I was immersing myself in practicing plant-based living, whether it's the Asian countries or in the Latin American countries or in the United States as well. So I am looking forward to continuing to serve my plant-based penny family, and I'm looking forward to our guest next week. We have a guest that's coming up on next week. This series is Heritage Fusion: our culture, our lifestyle, and our wellness, and the intersectionality between those. And so I do thank you for joining, but I do want to announce that next week's guest is, thank you, next week's guest is Neil Davis. Neil Davis. And he is the fitness guru, and he's going to be able to share with us on Heritage Fusion, and we look forward to hearing from him. And I am going to thank you for joining, and make sure that you subscribe for my YouTube channel at Plant-Based Penny, and also subscribe to my website, plantbasedpennylife.com. So wherever you're watching this, on Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube, thank you very much. And let's see, the final comment. Okay, you all did a great job today. Great information. Thank you, Margot. Thank you to all those who joined, and to those who are watching on the replay. And we'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye. Bye.